Gabbi and Priscilla join me from Austin, Texas. So good to have you together and to have you
Hi,
on the
Tim.
show. Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Hi, there's so much to talk about. Gabbi, first of all, let me commend you on everything that you're doing. And speaking up, never has a purple tank top looked so great as it did in the video. And I just appreciate both of you being here today because I know you had braced yourself for a lot of scrutiny. And you were worried, as you said, you lived in fear for so long. And then you reveal your story. And you did not get the vitriol that you had braced yourself for. How do you explain it?
I am just so overwhelmed by the love that's been shown by the entire world. I had hoped for a positive reception, but what has happened has been mind-blowing. Like I honestly can't believe the outpouring of love and acceptance and just from everyone from everywhere. It's been overwhelmingly positive and it's beautiful.
And you didn't see it coming. I mean, you've been living your life all of these years. Um, I think the word you said was pushing down Gabbi and using things like steroids and testosterone to present the person that we got to know, those of us who watched WWE. I mean, take me through that because it was like age 4 years old that you knew this about yourself.
That was the first time when I put the puzzle pieces together and looked back on my childhood. That was my first experience. My very first memory when I was 4 was me stuffing toys up my shirt to pretend like I was pregnant. My mom asked what I was doing, and she did, what every mom would do. My parents are wonderful. She's like, "Oh, that's girls get pregnant, sweetheart. Boys don't get pregnant." And then as I got older, it became one of those things where society and culture just beat it into my head that boys do not dress like girls, they do not act like girls, and if they do, there's consequences. You get
Right.
beat up, you get teased, you get socially, you become a social outcast, so to speak. So I buried it for years.
And so it looks like you doubled down on the masculinity. So you buried Gabbi and then you doubled down on the
Yes.
masculinity. I mean, look, the video we see of you in the gym, everything, that's not your average guy. That's
No.
super guy.
Yeah.
And is that a mask? Was that all a mask?
No, to be honest, I didn't realize how far away I was trying to get from the feminine until later. I embraced my male presentation when I was in my early 30s because I didn't really think it was possible for me to ever transition. I didn't know that I could be this person. Towards the end, before the transition, it absolutely was. I tried to get as far away from the feminine side as possible. So I embraced steroids and bodybuilding, and I just tried to be as burly and masculine as possible and just bury it.
Priscilla, you've been together 18 years. When and how did
23.
twen-
Yeah.
23 and who's counting you? That's a long time together. How and when did you learn of Gabby's secret?
There was an inclination about 3.5 or 4 years ago when there was some dressing up in my clothing. And so that
What
was
do
the
you mean
first
some
inkling
dressing up in your clothing? What do you mean by that?
in my clothing. Well, there was just some curiosity about what my items might look like. And being kind of open to whatever happens, I said, all right, go ahead. If you want to put that on, let's just do it. And I didn't realize the gravity behind it. I don't think either of us did. And then it progressed more and more to the point where 10 months ago, there was a decision to really move forward and become who she wanted to be. And
Which
it
is a
did
big
not
leap.
involve.
And forgive me for interrupting because I'm trying to, the leap is fast here. So you start, I guess, play dressing up. I guess is that the way to describe it. A little dress up here. You would wear some of Priscilla's items. And then, though, at some point, I would imagine that a heartfelt conversation would take place, Gabbi.
There was. There was a time when I had really thought Gabby shouldn't be in the light, so to speak, that this was a fetish. It was wrong. Priscilla had come to me and had just wanted to talk about it. Mentioned that, like, when you do dress up in the evenings in the daytime, I still have that image in my head. And she was just kind of expressing how she felt. Like, you obviously didn't do anything wrong, love me more than anything.
Mm.
But I'm so extreme that I just thought I have to bury Gabby. Like, this is bad for my marriage. I read way too far into it. And so I did what I thought was the right thing to do. And I buried it. I got to a very dark place because I stopped dressing up. I went into my bathroom. I had a bunch of steroids in there, and I loaded up a syringe with some pretty heavy stuff and shot it up. And the next 3 weeks were a lot of time at the gym, very internal. And I became very, very depressed.
Priscilla, did you know what was causing the depression? I mean, you had to have noticed that Gabby wasn't herself. And at the time, he was still gay. Did you notice that this pain and the transition or the pain that he was carrying?
Absolutely, 100%. We can feel each other's hearts on a very deep level. And I knew that Gabby wasn't gone.
Wow.
And so we were curled up one day and we were snuggled, and I just looked into my spouse's eyes and I said, "What's going on with Gabby? What's happening?" And the reply was, "She's dead." And I knew that it wasn't true. And then I would get dreams, I would get visions, and I knew that there were, hopefully it's okay to talk about this, but there were some suicidal thoughts. I would have dreams and visions of my spouse looking down the barrel of a gun, and they continued over and over and over again. And that's when I needed to open it up for a larger dialogue to save a life.
You were talking about those dark moments that you'd experience, and I'm watching you, and you're a picture of resilience now, and you are smiling, and obviously you're on the other side of a lot of this pain. But help us understand what it is like in those dark days when you don't know the love that you have now is on its way.
It was the most difficult thing I'd ever experienced, knowing that there's a part of me that needed to come out, but thinking that it wasn't allowed to. It was like there were chains wrapped around my heart
Mhm.
and pulling down just the weight of the world. I had a hard time breathing some days. It was really, really heavy. I had visions of going to my closet and taking my pistol. And literally, I would walk through the whole event. I was never a suicidal person. My brother committed suicide back in 2013, so I know the damage. But I would walk through like the pain will be over in a split second. I won't have to feel it. It was the most terrifying thing, but also the most. It was a sense of peace to think it would be over, and I was willing to go that far to end the pain. It was that bad.
When you saw the story, for example, Caitlyn Jenner,
Mm.
did that strike a nerve with you at all? Especially you're an athlete, Caitlyn. I mean, and there have been other stories, but that sticks out the most to me for you. What did that story, did it resonate in any way for you?
Younger years,
Yeah.
it didn't. So several years ago, I couldn't relate to Caitlyn. When I started understanding who I was inside and how my feminine side needed to come out, instantaneously I thought of Caitlyn and I thought, okay, this makes a lot more sense.
Mm.
I could see her being an athlete. There was another transgender woman, Janae Marie Kroc, same
Mhm.
thing. She was formerly a world champion powerlifter, and her documentary over the summer I watched it and I cried through the whole thing and I thought, oh
Wow.
my God, between those two women, they gave me hope, an
Wow.
amazing amount of hope that I could be who I needed to be.